So what we're going to talk about today is peace and how to get peace. That's not so bad, right? I don't hear anybody vigorously booing that. Like, we all want to have peace. But we've got to put some blinders on that, or some focus, because me giving you some verbal cues up from the stage is not going to ease geopolitical tensions or stop tragedies from happening. I mean, what we're really talking about, and you already know this, is inner peace, right? How do we feel good and happy and optimistic, even though life is chaotic, right? Life is difficult. But that's not even good enough. I don't feel like that's it, because you guys have felt peace at some point, right? I mean, it's happened. Even for me, it's happened once or twice, where I feel like, oh yeah, I'm okay. Even though it seems like I should be more upset than I am right now, I'm pretty chill. My tire pressure sensor light went on and I don't know what it is. That's fine. It'll be fine. But how's the rest of life? I was thinking, if they gave me a survey, like a satisfaction survey, how satisfied are you with the percentage of mental states where you're in peace versus out of peace? I would say, like, this ratio is whack. Like, we need to figure out a way. What we're really looking for is, how do we get lasting inner peace, right? How do we, when those states come up, prolong them? And how can we access them? Don't they seem so intermittent, so random? How do we get it so we can be doing that? And so peace is a really cool thing, and if I can give you guys any useful tools to it, that's what I want to do. So what we want to look at then is what gets in the way of peace. Why don't we just have this all the time? And I know I've started this talk doing a lot of hedging, which is not a very professional way to do it, but I'm going to do it again, because I really want to give you a sense of what I can and can't don't feel like I can help you with. So what's this? Do you guys know that? When I was putting this together, I was like, yeah, we all learned about that in elementary school, but then I was like, when do you learn about Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Is it college? I don't know. Anyway, what we're going to be doing today is really kind of looking at a spiritual version of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yeah, that's my handwriting. And my handwriting is going to play a pretty significant role in today's presentation. So I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. I'm left-handed, and that's how it goes. But what the concept, I don't know if Maslow's hierarchy is 100% accurate with how human beings are, but the concept that I think is so potent and so cool about that is it's saying that unless you have the basics intact, unless you feel like you're not hungry and you're secure, all this more ephemeral sort of frosting stuff, the love and belonging, the esteem, you can't even expect to get that stuff. So there's times in life when I don't know if we can have peace. We've just had some kind of tragic event or something really real has happened. I'm not going to be sitting here saying, well, if you just apply these principles right, it'll be fine. There's times everyone processes it their own way, but there may be times when there is just hard stuff that's just hard. However, there's a lot of times that are harder than they need to be, right? Isn't it the most frustrating, elusive thing is everything seems to be going well. You feel like in life this sort of bottom stuff is taken care of, but why can't I? Everything seems like I should be happy. I don't know, you probably never had this, but I should be happier than I am right now, given the stuff. Why, when everything seems set up to be okay, am I kind of self-sabotaging? And particularly this sort of negative, shallow, like ego-based stuff that saps peace out of what are otherwise perfectly peaceable situations, if that's even a word. So that's what we want to get at today. And we want to look at how can we equip ourselves to better navigate that. So what gets in the way of peace in those situations? And it may be that these principles apply even outside. So this is a pretty important goal that we have, and I think we should get so serious about it that I think we should diagram it. So we have peace as our goal, right? And that's a pretty good goal. I don't think there's much of a problem with that. So what's standing in the way of peace here in those situations? And I'm going to lead with an example that I feel like is going to set the tone. But then I would like to hear, I don't know if you guys like it when I do like ask the audience for input stuff, but I'm going to try it. What gets in the way? Because if we can identify the problem, maybe we can start getting towards a solution here. So an example that I love, what gets in the way of peace when there could be it? Let's talk about, it's like, hey, jealousy. No, you don't know that song? Okay. Jealousy. Let's say I'm here and I'm having fun talking to you guys, right? We're in the middle of this talk and it's going okay. It's dark. I can't see if anyone's left yet, but it doesn't seem like anybody has. And so I'm doing fine, and let's say you guys are relatively happy with how it goes, and it's great and it's fine. And then I'm peaceful. It's like, okay, I came here and I did what I had to do. But in this imaginary world, let's say there's somebody else that comes to do another talk right after mine, and I'm like sitting there on the side stage watching it, and I start to notice, like, oh, everybody really loves this talk. Everybody's like clapping. I think somebody was like dancing in the aisles there, and suddenly, am I peaceful anymore? I'm very upset. Who is this person? And from something that is absolutely not a threat to me at all. What do I care if this person is happy and you guys are happy? But yet this thing in me, jealousy, is keeping me from peace when there could be peace. Do you get the kind of things I'm talking about? What's something else that keeps you from peace? Worry. I love that's my favorite. My life is sponsored by worry. Okay. Like any other institution, if it was wrong as often as worry is, it'd be gone, you know? Like, I just think back on how many times I've been worried about something, almost always, and it doesn't come to pass. And yet next time worry starts to kick up, I'm like, well, what if this one happens? You know? So worry is there's so much stuff that never comes to fruition, and it's draining us of our ability to be happy. That's a great one. Anyone else? Fear. Yes. We're like the greatest hits list. Fear, like this, I would differentiate worry and fear as fear is like overestimating the threat of something, or this is not just like low level, this is like, I'm terrified of this. And how many things that I was afraid of not only didn't happen, but actually turned out to be okay, or even good when they did happen. All right, I know those have been awesome. I'll just add one more. Think about control, or the need to control. Like, how often is something going well, but it's not going my way that I wanted it to be? And so, how many times is this pen gonna fall? I have like a backup one here, but I'm like, we should have tethered it or something. But I'm not afraid of that happening. So it's not going to, I was like, this pen is going to stay, this table is level, but it's not, it doesn't matter. To you guys watching, you don't care if the pen fell or not. But if I want to control it and have it go my own way, then it's a problem. So all this stuff is robbing us of peace when we should have peace. And think about how much collective joy, and there's more, I know there's more that could go on there, but how much collective joy is wasted by this stuff here, right? So we have this stuff and it's coming at us, but we're not totally helpless in this situation. We have tools that we use to deal with stuff like this, right? And I would say you could very easily differentiate them into bad and good tools. I mean, there are, especially if you're coming here and you feel like, okay, we're trying to live spiritually and live by higher principles, there's certain things that we know are just like treating the symptoms in this case and aren't actually solutions. These will be bad tools. For example, jealousy, well, you just win, right? I'm worried about this speech, but they say something that's really offensive, and everyone boos them off the stage, and I'm like, yes, okay, I'm fine, I'm peaceful again, right? That's a problem. You know, obviously, that, and you know, control, okay, I get my way, and then I'm happy, and then it's no problem, everyone's happy, right? Well, nobody except me. So those aren't the real tools. But we do have good tools to deal with this stuff, right? I mean, we know, it's not like we haven't heard of virtue. Like jealousy, you can think, there's a lot that you can put there, but like, you know, humility, realizing, okay, it's not all about me, and let's see what the value is in this, and realizing other people have stuff in their life. I mean, there can be decent things you deal with. What's a good tool for worry? Trust? Yeah. Trust. And we know when you actually, trust is actually kind of a rare bird, but when you do get it, in whatever you're trusting, there's not a much better feeling than, I trust this, I trust the process. Okay, control is like, man, what's control? What's a good one for control? Ooh, yeah, that's good. I really was blanking on that, so that's perfect, yeah. surrender. It's a long word, though, so you have this awkward time when I'm talking and writing at the same time, if you want to call that writing. Okay, surrender, and then fear, I think, would be something along the lines of trust. Okay, we did it. We've got the problems, but we've got the tools. We know what our goal is. Actually, we finished a little early, right? We did it. We already know. Except I know that we didn't, because when I first came up here and said, we're going to talk about how to get to lasting inner peace, you all weren't like, boo, we already have peace. We don't need to talk about that. This is a waste of time. Why is it? But what's wrong with our chart? We know these are the problems. And even if there's a couple in there that we missed, these are pretty good representative examples of that. These are good tools. You all just helped me come up with these tools. We know these are good. There's nothing wrong here. So what's the problem? Could it be that there's actually a problem here in this column? Could there be something wrong or something misdirected about looking for peace as a goal? We got this situation that we're in, where we got our problems, the overarching problem being that we don't get nearly the peace that I would want us to get. We've got our tools that we try to use, but really the issue is that, for me, it's temporary, the relief that they sometimes bring, and it's inconsistent. That there's some times when it seems like, oh yeah, humility is accessible. Other times when I know I am trying to be not worried about this, but I can't, right? It's not always accessible and it's not always consistent. So what can we do? Actually, we're a little bit stuck. We need some help, and we're going to get help from a very unexpected place. Because according to Swedenborg, there is this detailed roadmap for how to get past these issues in none other than the commandment about the Sabbath. So you guys may be familiar. This is of 10 Commandments fame in Exodus. There's this whole treatise on how we're supposed to take a day off from work. So let me read it out loud just to refresh us on it. And how is this possibly related? Where is he going with this? Remember the Sabbath day to consecrate it. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, and the seventh is a Sabbath to Jehovah your God. You shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male servant or your female servant, or your beast or the foreigner who is in your gates. For in 6 days Jehovah made the heaven and the earth, the sea, and everything that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore Jehovah blessed the Sabbath day and consecrated it. So it's poetic, right? It can be comforting. It can be a little puzzling. There are some elements that you wonder a little bit about in there, and how is it relevant to what we're dealing with today? So I want to walk you through the meaning that we can find in this to give us this compass that can lead us out of the problem that we're in. And I want to start right at the very beginning. It's interesting, like, remember, not I'm telling you something new, but remember the Sabbath day. And what is it to remember something? It's like, oh, it fell back here out of my mental peripheral vision, so I'm going to pull it here. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it in mind. Keep it in your mind. And I want to read to you a quote about the psychological ripples that happen in us when we focus on keeping something in mind. So this is from Swedenborg's Secrets of Heaven. There are certain things that we constantly think about. That is, they are, and this is like kind of a weird phrase, but I ended up really liking it for what this is. They are universally sovereign in our mind. Sovereign is like it's the king of our mind or the queen of our mind. This is the thing that everything goes back to. So there's something that's really, if you had to pick one thing, your mental house is on fire, this is what you grab and take with you. These are our deepest thoughts. It's important to realize that what is universally sovereign in us has actually been implanted into our will. And the will is the love, the motivation that really makes you who you are. So the thing we really place as this focal point in mind gets into the core of who we are. Our will is the innermost part of us because it is shaped by our love. Whatever we love, we want. And whatever we love above all else is our deepest desire. That's cool. Just, oh yeah, there may be something that really, and I may not even be fully cognizant of it, but what's my deepest desire? And another way to say deepest desire is goal. this is our goal. So what Swedenborg is asserting, if we go back to our diagram, is that there's a spot in us, and I'll call this the universally, I won't write it out, don't worry, universally sovereign spot. This is the thing that's really motivating us, and it's the thing that shapes how we perceive all the rest of this. That we're actually looking at the nature of the problem and the threat that it poses through the lens of what we're really after. And it's the same way we view the tools, and it's the same way that we are able to wield them and noting how efficient and how much we believe in these tools. It all comes through what's in this slot. So what's in there is really important, and I will give a little disclosure for you guys here. There's times when I'm saying, what I really want is peace, but the peace is a front for what I actually want. So to give you an example to go along with this jealousy one, let's say, what's really the most important thing for me? When its stock goes up, I'm happy. When its stock goes down, I'm unhappy. Let's say it was reputation. It's not like I'm always, is there an N on there? It's not like I'm always thinking about that, but I do notice that when I get a compliment, that's when I feel good. When I don't impress or somebody else is cooler than me, then it deflates. That actually, peace is when things go well for my reputation. So how does that affect how I see these problems? Jealousy, it becomes life or death. Because if the most important thing is that everybody thinks I'm cool, but all of a sudden everyone thinks someone else is cool, that's very hard to let go of. And is humility really something I can believe in deeply? Because it can give temporary relief, but if it's at odds with the primary goal, then that I don't really trust that tool. I don't really think it can get the job done. So what's in this spot can really complicate our efforts to get to peace. And it really feels like it's such an important spot that what should the goal in life be? How am I qualified to make that decision? It's almost, and I know this is not how things are supposed to work, but it's almost like I wish God would just say, here's exactly what you should put in that spot. Oh, snap. We just heard that, right? You guys remember the commandment? The Sabbath. Remember, if we're talking about remember being universally sovereign, the Sabbath is what we're supposed to keep in mind. That's what we're supposed to focus on. Okay, cool. So what's the Sabbath? Well, it's the day that you don't work, and isn't this why people have church on Sunday, right? So it's essentially Sunday, right? So Sunday. Okay, cool. So I'm jealous. Think about Sunday. Okay? And somebody's probably like, well, actually, did you know that it was originally Saturday? That is the Sabbath. Okay, let's think about Saturday. I'm feeling triggered by this person and I'm acting foolishly and selfishly, but on Saturday I'm not going to work at all. So what the Sabbath is, it's obviously standing for something deeper. So what the Sabbath is of utmost importance there. And according to Swedenborg, what the Sabbath is our union with the Lord. Well, how do we get there? How do we get to the Sabbath being the union with the Lord? Well, it is interesting that you've got the story of creation that opens the Bible, and you've got all these 6 days we're making stuff, and on the seventh day, God, what? Rested. And it's interesting we're suddenly talking about God resting. There is a state in which not just we have peace, but God has peace, because the thing that God's really working at is when we're fighting God. That when we are able to put aside our ego-based, self-centered, negative, limited goals and stop fighting God on the bigger picture, that's when we can get in a state of peace, and actually God can too. Because what is the way that you most closely unite with somebody? I think not just for God, but for anyone. There's probably not a single answer exactly for this, but I think it's uniting with their goals. When you want to do something, you want to do the same thing as a person. You think of people that you're united to by a belief in a common cause, something you're working together on a project or on a mission with people. How much does that unite? So the Sabbath is actually a call to unite, remember our uniting to the Lord's goals. What are God's goals? You step back and think about what kind of stuff does God want, right? You to be happy, but happy in a way that's healthy and constructive and can grow and grow forever. God wants to take it. We see echoes of this in the best love we have for each other. God wants to take care of us in all these little amazingly specific and loving ways. What kind of, you guys know, what kind of stuff does God want? Kindness. And isn't it when we step back and think about how does something higher see the situation, that we begin to see the value of things like kindness flowing out there? And is God just interested in one of us? Right? God is interested in how can we get everybody happy, and happy in working with each other. What else? What is God looking for? Forgiveness. Oh, that's right. Oh, good listening. When we're kind to each other, there's this sort of like, oh yeah, that is honorable. That is good. And is God looking at our future and maybe directing things and making sure that things are going to be okay? So I don't know if you've felt it, but as soon as we start talking, as soon as we start remembering this connection, I'm feeling differently about life. You start to think about life in sort of the, like when the music kicks up in a movie and you see the big beauty of it all, right? When the story starts to come together. We're experiencing a little bit of the Sabbath right now, because you have that shift to thinking about life more as God sees it and more as love sees it, because love is God. God is the one providing love for us. So you think about when you get into that state, when you see what really matters in life, this is when we're starting to understand, okay, we're united with the Lord's goals. What really matters in life, I had a health scare and I realized how much I love my family and want to do things for them and how kindness should be. That's the Sabbath. And imagine taking this feeling that we have here and plugging it in to the chaos of this. How does it change things? We'll get rid of this like encroaching little joke I made. How does it change things to remember that union with the Lord's goals? If I'm thinking about this unlimited love, this caring, the future of the human race where we can work together, intimately supporting each other, and that we're destined for this happiness, how does that change my moment-to-moment jealousy? Suddenly I'm realizing that, it's not all about me. This person, is somebody else who's worthy of love. I'm going to be okay because I kind of have God is like my agent taking care of life, that I can trust that. How do you see humility then? Humility is intrinsic to the kind of love that flows out of that. Suddenly this stuff is no longer, I'm going to pick this up because I heard it's a good thing to do. This is like what fits with the big picture. And suddenly it's not life or death, all of this. We can see these as little impediments that really there's so much more. This surrender stops being just surrender, because you don't always want to surrender. If people are charging at you, you don't always want to surrender. Sometimes you want to run. Sometimes you want to defend yourself. But if you believe there's actually this love that is overseeing everything and is going to take care of you, this surrender has a whole different feel to it. So this union, putting the union with the Lord's goals, because in mind, that is what completes this equation. And when we connect to that, look what this does for us. It actually, when we unite with the Lord's goals, when we put this as our goal, then there's an effect. There's the peace. There's the peace that we're looking for. When we align with the bigger picture and what love is trying to do, then we get peace. And it has to be true, because how many times have I, in my little life, thought, I really want this thing to happen, and this has got to happen like this, and if this doesn't happen, it's going to be this major tragedy. And then a few years later, I dodged a bullet there. I'm glad that did not happen. I did not know what I was talking about. I think about the things that who I wanted to be like when I was a teenager, and what I thought was important. It's like, this is so dumb. Like, of course I would have been in trouble if life had gone that way. And look at me, I'm like, 34? I don't know anything. I don't have any people who have put in a couple more decades with me. How much more perspective do you have then? And if you're thinking about us as life goes on, that death is not the end, that there's an afterlife and there's eternity, how much more and more perspective can we get? Of course, the only way to really have peace is to trust that the Maker is running things as it goes. So there you have it, and that's easy, and go do it. It's easy anytime. This is very hard. Even hearing, this is not, it's like you've never heard anything like this. It's very hard, and actually, the commandment anticipated this. This is Swedenborg commenting again. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. Why does it have it in there? Why isn't it just like, well, if this commandment's about the Sabbath, we don't need to talk about the rest of the week, let's just focus on the Sabbath. No, we're talking about the work week too. It's symbolic of the struggle that comes before and prepares us for, and this is a great way to say it, the marriage of goodness and truth inside of us. Goodness being the right motivation, the love that drives us there, and truth being the understanding of the big picture. When that comes together, that's when we can actually feel this uniting with God. This is a marriage of goodness and truth, marriage of person and God. All the things in the universe go back to some kind of uniting. This is consistent with the symbolism of 6 days as a period of struggle. It's also consistent with to labor and do all your work as symbolic of doing everything necessary to live. In this case, to live spiritually, or in heaven. And heaven is this state of mind that you can be working on right now that is trust in the Lord and is aligning with love. This is the goal, but we know it's hard. That's all right. That's part of it. And this is actually, we're just unpacking a little bit of this commandment here. I mean, there's all these other things. Especially down here, we've got, okay, you shouldn't work, neither should your kids and your pets. What's that all about? Well, these, according to Swedenborg, are the different parts of us. It's not like we're just a single thing. There's these different elements in our minds that we all work with to get into this kind of order. We remember the Sabbath maybe in this part of life when we're at work, but we don't remember it when we're at home, or vice versa. We're working to pull that in. We've got these 6 days as the work here, but when it gets to the end, when we rest with God on this seventh day, we get the Sabbath, which is a state of peace that becomes holy. And it's something that I was saying, you can pop into it, and when we're there, to know where it came from and what we can do to get back to it then. So you want to take that idea and drop it into the chaos of life here. That there is something bigger and higher, and that anytime I can, the commandment's not a threat, like you have to do this. It's a promise that whenever you remember the Sabbath, you can get into this state of peace. It's going to be work, but you can get a mechanism so you're there. And I want to leave you with what I feel like is one of my favorite quotes on one of my favorite ideas. It's from Swedenborg, again. And this sums up really well what I think it's all about. So within peace, and this is about the nature of what can we really be looking for to get us that peace. Within peace, you see, lies trust in the Lord. Trust that he is in, what's God doing for us? In complete charge, takes care of everything, and leads it to a good ending. Those are the three keys. God is got everything, and is not just, okay, I'll do whatever I want. He's going to bring it somewhere, as chaotic and unbelievable as that may seem, bring it to somewhere good. And why would you want to work on cultivating a belief in that? What's the benefit package that you get from that? How's this? When we believe this, we are at peace, because then we fear nothing and have no worries about the future to disturb us. And that's something that I would love to see happen for all of you. And it's not going to happen automatically, but keeping that in mind. The Lord, whenever I'm in some kind of triggered state, whether it's I'm getting in my own way or there is something in life that's scaring me, to think like, wait, God is here and we're intimately connected and there's something bigger and this is going to be okay. In the end, not that it's okay right now, it's going to be okay. That when and the saying like, all right, I'm going to let you move things the way they need to be, trusting that you're not taking your hands off the wheel, that you've got this long view. That's when we get the peace.
We We want the ideas and insights we cover to be available for free to anyone, anytime they need them. As a nonprofit, we depend on donor support to enable us to continue creating high-quality programming. This season, we're featuring the opportunity to become a member of our community of sustaining supporters by signing up to give a monthly donation. If you've benefited from our content, please consider going to otlemonthly.causevox.com to join the central network of people in the world who make our work possible. Our sustaining supporters are the backbone of what we do at Off the Left Eye. Your support helps the ideas in our content reach and nourish thousands of people every week around the globe. We couldn't do it without you. Give if you can, receive if you need. If we cycle through this way, in the end, everybody wins.